2018 AFL season kicks off tonight, so it is time to get my AFL 2018 season predictions and round one predictions out. Who's going to bring home this year's accolades? Who's going to get the wins this weekend? My predictions coming up right about now. What's going on, Godzirra Nation? This is our Godzirra. Welcome back to a brand new video. Now, as I said in the intro, 2018 season kicks off tonight. Richmond versus Carlton, MCG, like it has been for the last few years. And a lot of you on the channel, when we do live streams and on my AFL videos, we like to talk about the upcoming season. You guys are very passionate about the game, just like myself. So I thought, with all the subscribers that I've got on board that are as passionate as the game as I am, it's about time I did my 2018 predictions video, talking about all the different awards that I think are going to be won this year by certain players, which teams are going to make the top 8 by the end of the year, who's going to win the premiership, as well as doing a weekly tips video and try to put out my predictions for the week as well. I'm also doing AFL Supercoach. If that is something you want to see on the channel, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm happy to do a week by week on updating my team there, but weekly we'll be doing every Thursday a video talking about what I think is going to go down that weekend in football, and that way we can have a discussion in the comment section down below about what you think is going to go down as well, and we can see who gets the most right, like a little competition amongst ourselves. But anyway, kicking things off, we are going to start with my 2018 season predictions. And I think we're going to kick things off with the Brownlow Medal. The Brownlow Medal this year, I think, is going to be competed against amongst a few players, but my prediction for the Brownlow this year is that Nat Fyfe from the Fremantle Dockers is going to get up and win it. Now, probably asking, you're a Richmond supporter, Godzirra, why aren't you backing Dustin Martin? Well, here's my thought process behind it. Dustin Martin could go back-to-back, and I'm not denying he doesn't have the capability of doing so. I'm just thinking this year, with the player movement we've had on the off-season, Fremantle don't really have many other contenders apart from Lachie Neale that are going to challenge Nat Fyfe when it comes to Fremantle winning games and polling votes. The other player I think that's going to do really well this year is Tom Mitchell from Hawthorn. As I just said about Nat Fyfe, there's not many other players from Hawthorn that are going to be continuously taking votes away from Tom Mitchell. With Richmond, you've got Trent Cotchin, who'll be taking votes away from Dustin Martin. You've got people like Dion Prestia. Kane Lambert could even poll more votes this year like he did last year. And then you've got Dangerfield. With Gary Ablett running around at Geelong, how can you guarantee Dangerfield's going to get the 3 votes every week when Geelong win? And they were already on the back foot because Dangerfield's not playing this weekend, round 1. So my tip for the Brownlow this year, Nat Fyfe, Tom Mitchell to come second, Dustin Martin to come third. I think they're my 3. If I had to throw a roughie in the mix, I think Clayton Oliver from Melbourne could get up. But as I just said, there's a few players at Melbourne that can also get up and steal votes from him too. So I'm backing Nat Fyfe from the Fremantle Dockers to lock up the 2018 Brownlow Medal. Turning our attention now to the Coleman Medal. Who's going to kick the most goals in the 2018 season? And I've been watching some players during the JLT and pre-season, and I think this year we are going to see one of the greatest forwards of all time, without a doubt, especially in the modern era, get back to his fullest of capabilities and kick the biggest amount of goals this year. And that's Buddy Franklin from Sydney. He is in top notch. You have a look over the past few years, he hasn't really had that big of a pre-season. He hasn't felt the need to compete in JLT because, let's face it, he's an elite superstar of the game. And when you're playing JLT, namely, most of the coaches are playing their younger kids, get a little bit of experience, give them a little bit of exposure. This year, Lance Franklin didn't play just JLT 1, but he played JLT 2, and he was looking in fine form. And I think this year, we're going to see him return to that form we saw a few years ago when he took out the Coleman. Now, if he's going to be challenged, I'm backing either Ben Brown from North Melbourne or Joe Danaher from the Essendon Football Club to challenge him. But I'm thinking this year, Lance Franklin takes home the Coleman Medal for himself. Moving forward now, probably the last award we look at singly before we look at the Premiership and my top 8 predictions is the NAB Rising Star Award. And I've got 2 players in mind for that. One of them you might think I'm going to be a little bit biased because I'm going to pick a Richmond player. But I think Jack Graham from the Richmond Football Club has a good chance of taking it down. He is still eligible to be nominated. And the back end of last season, when we saw that couple of games, especially during the final series, he just turned it up. And on grand final day, a teenager comes out and he kicks the 3 or 4 goals like he did. Superb game. A player like that is going to take that momentum moving into the following season and absolutely dominate. I think he'll be up there. The other player that I think is going to be up there is from the Brisbane Football Club. And I think Alex Witherden is going to follow up on the kind of gameplay he showed last year. And he's got the makings of a very elite footballer. I think he's going to be up there as well. So at the moment I'm torn between either Jack Graham or Alex Witherden. Take your pick, either one. But I think those are the 2 that are going to be competing for this year's NAB Rising Star Award. Moving on from the medals, guys, I'm turning our attention to the top 8 and who I think is going to play finals at the end of this year. I don't see much change in the top 4. I'm still thinking Adelaide, Richmond, Geelong and GWS are going to be the 4 teams within top 4 this year. I think Port Adelaide's going to be in the top 8. They could possibly push for a top 4 spot as well. But I'm also backing Sydney, Melbourne, and I'm even feeling St Kilda. So we've got Adelaide, Geelong, Richmond, GWS, Sydney, Port, St Kilda, and Melbourne. Those are the 8 I'm tipping to make it. Now you're probably thinking I might be on crack, you know, Godzirra might be having a sniff, but St Kilda and Melbourne have shown a lot over the last couple of seasons to show they're on track, and I think both teams this year are going to push for top 8 action. Top 4, as I just said, Adelaide, Richmond, GWS, Geelong, I think those are going to be the pinnacle, but I feel if anybody can sneak in, Port Adelaide's going to be the team that can sneak in this year. Now, who's going to be my big improver and who's going to be the slider this year? The slider, and my prediction for the wooden spoon, is North Melbourne Football Club. Now, they're in the phase of a rebuild, let's face it. The last 2 seasons, we've seen them get rid of their older players, start bringing in a bit of youth. They really need to get rid of their coach, if you're asking my opinion. But I think North Melbourne are going to be on the decline this year compared to last year. But it's not going to be long until we see them gradually get back to where they're at. And I think the big improvers this year are going to be Essendon. And I think they can push for a top 8 spot as well. If it's not St Kilda or Melbourne challenging for that 8th spot, I think Essendon's going to be up in that mix as well. So I'm actually going to even throw Essendon within my top 8 prediction. We'll do St Kilda / Essendon as my top 8 prediction for that spot. But I think Essendon's going to be the big improvers, especially during the off-season. They've acquired players like Jake Stringer. You know, they've got Ahmed Saad. They've picked up Devon Smith. They've picked up players to give themselves a bit of a boost. And I think they've got a lot to prove this season. That's pretty much it for my 2018 wrap-up. We've done all the medals. We've done my top 8 predictions. We've done who I think's going to slide, who I think's going to be improving. My last prediction is who I think is going to win the 2018 AFL Premiership. And I think this year, even though I'd like to see Richmond go back-to-back, that'd be the ultimate dream. I think now that they've got most of their players back from injury, GWS Giants are going to take out this year's AFL Premiership. Now, you're probably questioning whether or not Godzirra is still on the sniff, but I'm telling you right now, Stephen Cadiglio, for example, they missed him during the season. Come finals, he absolutely turned it up. If they had him in the middle during the season proper, he would have made a big difference. There was also some other players that head out on injury long-term for the season as well. I'm backing GWS to get the job done. A lot of people are thinking Gary Ablett going back to Geelong has pretty much wrapped up a premiership for Geelong, but I don't think so, because he's very injury-prone. He's getting old. He's not the same Gary Ablett we're used to seeing, but I could be wrong. But with my tip, I'm backing GWS to take out this year's AFL Premiership. Now, it's time to turn our attention to round 1 action, kicking off tonight. Richmond versus Carlton. We are only moments away from being able to see that game, and I am so excited. So, Looking at the fixture, as I just said, tonight we have Richmond versus Carlton, and for those of you who know Godzirra, you know I'm an avid Richmond fan. I am backing Richmond to beat Carlton tonight. However, I think Carlton are going to be a lot better this season than what people are giving credit for. They are going to struggle without Sam Doherty in the back line. No doubt about that. With Bryce Gibbs gone as well, I think that's a bit of firepower missing from their midfield that they're going to struggle to replicate. But Richmond tonight will get the job done. No doubt about that. I'm not going to be confident saying it's going to be a smacking. I think it's going to be closer than what people think it's going to be. But I'm backing Richmond to kick the season off with a win. And I'm thinking they need to have a decent-sized win tonight to back up all the talk on the off-season about how they're going to have a premiership hangover from last year. We saw the miracle happen. Godzirra went absolutely nuts. We took home the premiership last year. Richmond have a lot riding on their shoulders this season and a big burden to bear in having to back up their acts last season. And I think they're going to kick off the season well enough and prove that tonight. Looking at the rest of the fixture, tomorrow night, Essendon versus Adelaide. It's played at Etihad Stadium, so Adelaide have to travel here. And even though I think Essendon are going to be big improvers this year, I have to tip Adelaide. They're going to have a fire burning in their gut from that result in the grand final. And I'm backing them to come out in the first game and go absolutely bananas and beat Essendon in Melbourne. Saturday afternoon action at Etihad Stadium, St Kilda versus Brisbane Lions. I'm backing St Kilda, but we have seen worse things happen, so Brisbane could upset here as well. But I am backing the Saints to get the job done. Later on that afternoon, we've got Port Adelaide versus Fremantle in Adelaide, and that's game over. Port Adelaide in Port Adelaide, and Adelaide in Adelaide. Those are two teams you don't want to play at home because they're just so dominant on their ground. I think Port Adelaide's going to notch up a big win against Fremantle there. Continuing on at the Gold Coast, we've got the Gold Coast Suns versus North Melbourne. And it's pretty funny because they're pretty much playing for the wooden spoon in round one. But I don't know who I'm going to pick here because even though Gold Coast have the home field advantage, they're missing a few players, especially with the loss of Gary Ablett in the off-season. He carried that team on his shoulders for a very long time. North Melbourne could come out and just go absolutely bananas. I'm actually going to tip an upset here. I'm backing North Melbourne to beat the Gold Coast up at the Gold Coast. Rounding out Saturday afternoon, Hawthorn versus at the MCG. Both teams have something to prove this year. Collingwood and Hawthorn both missing out on finals, both wanting to push into that top 8 slot. It's going to be a battle early. I'm actually going to go as far as predicting Collingwood to get the win over Hawthorn in a very close battle. It's going to be very close, but I think the youth of Collingwood, they've got enough games in them to get over Hawthorn. That's what I'm thinking. And I think Luke Hodge losing that pivotal back role, I think that's going to be a bit of a letdown for Hawthorn. I'm backing Collingwood to get the job done. Sunday afternoon, we got three games, GWS versus the Bulldogs. I'm backing GWS to come out and have a big win to kick off the season. Melbourne versus Geelong. I would normally pick Geelong. No Patrick Dangerfield playing. I'm going to back Melbourne to knock Geelong off round one. And then rounding things off, Optus Stadium finally gets its first game as a brand new stadium. West Coast taking on Sydney. And I'm backing Sydney to knock West Coast off in the West. And if you're wondering whether I'm still on those drugs, I'm going to give you reason as to why I think Sydney's going to get up. West Coast do not have Josh Kennedy playing forward. Matt Priddis is now missing out of the middle. Nick Naitanui could make round one, but he's still carrying an injury, so we could see maybe Scott Lysette having to carry the ruck role on his own for round one. I think West Coast at the moment, they're also in the development of rebuilding. Optus Stadium is brand new. No one's played on it before, so you can kind of throw the home field advantage out the window. I think it's an even playing ground. Sydney during the pre-season proved that they've got a full tank and ready to go, and I'm tipping Sydney to beat West Coast in the West. So rounding that up this weekend, I am tipping Richmond Adelaide, St Kilda, Port Adelaide, North Melbourne, Collingwood, GWS, Melbourne, and Sydney. Let me know in the comment sections down below what your tips are for this week's games. And then what we'll do is next week, leading into round 2, we'll have a look back at how we went with predicting round 1, and then we'll move on and do our round 2 predictions, and then so on and so on and so on. And then we'll just see by the end of the year if there's some subs that have picked better than Godzirra, or Godzirra has been pretty spot on with his picks. We'll find out. But I think this is a little interesting way for myself and my AFL loving subscribers to just communicate with one another and have a little bit of fun. You guys are always asking me what I think about, about your clubs and how they're going to do this year, and whether I'm going to be going to games, and whether I'm going to do some more AFL based stuff on the channel. This is just a way of me giving back to you, having the chance at chatting on a different kind of platform, doing something different, having a little bit of fun. So with that being said, guys, Richmond is getting ready to play very shortly. I'm going to go check that out. You better believe if we win, Godzirra is going to be very, very excited. So I will catch you guys later. If you did enjoy this video, guys, and are hyped to do this little thing with me, be sure to show your love like you have been. Smash that thumbs up button, show your support. Get on board the Godzirra Nation if you're new and you haven't already by hitting subscribe. Social media links down below. Hit me up on Twitter. Go like my Facebook page. Go hit Fifth Unity up on Facebook as well, guys, my gaming group. Hit that notification bell while you're at it too, guys. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.